Security Committee, Senator Rand Paul. Senator, it's great to see you this morning, and I want to get into the COVID situation in a moment. But first, more pressing situations this morning after the attack from Iran into Israel. Your reaction?
You know, I think we're very fortunate that it was ineffective and that Israel's and U.S. defenses were able to stop 97% of this. But I think one question that's not being asked enough this morning is everybody's asking, what is the next step to escalation? There's another question. What are the possibility that we could de-escalate the situation? You know, every action has a reaction. Hamas attacked on October 7th. Awful, dreadful. Israel kills 2 generals. Now Iran attacks. So every action has a reaction. And is there a possibility that this could be de-escalated at this point? And I think people ought to take a breath, wait a little bit. In medicine, we're taught to check your own pulse before you check the patient's pulse. You need to calm down and think with a clear head before we move forward.
So what do you want to do in terms of moving forward in the Senate with regard to the conversation around a new supplemental package, which would send money to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan?
You know, I haven't supported foreign aid really in my tenure in the Senate, but I did support foreign aid that was paid for to Israel not too long ago. This was passed in the House, and then every Democrat in the Senate voted against foreign aid that was paid for. What I would say to Speaker Johnson is hold your ground, show some cojones, show some intestinal fortitude, for goodness sakes. You've already passed aid to Israel. Tell Chuck Schumer when he's ready to take it up, but it's going to be paid for. It's a great precedent if Speaker Johnson will stick by his guns. I have a feeling that we're going to see capitulation. There's already talk of a new one that's unpaid for. Why in the world would Republicans negotiate with themselves? Tell Chuck Schumer, bring it up. It's been sitting in the Senate for 2 months now. If they want more aid to Israel, bring it up, but we're going to have to cut somewhere else to pay for it.
I want to also ask you about what you heard from the Speaker regarding FISA. Can we trust government? Can we trust government to use FISA appropriately and legally?
Absolutely not. Americans shouldn't be spied on by their own government. The Fourth Amendment was put in by our founding fathers to protect us. FISA doesn't obey the Fourth Amendment. And so Speaker Johnson was incredibly wrong. He broke the tie. He voted with the Democrats. Here we have the leader of the Republicans in the House votes with the Democrats against a warrant requirement. We also have Speaker Johnson voting for the spending package, once again, with the majority of the Democrats. As I see it now, I'm not sure there's a difference between Mike Johnson being in charge and the Democrats being in charge. The deficit this year will be $1.5 to $2 trillion, and that's Mike Johnson's bill. He put it forward. He supported it with a minority of Republicans, with a majority of Democrats. This is not using the power of the purse. This is abdicating the power of the purse.
Well, why? Why do you think that is?
You know, people have to be strong in their convictions. He was seen as a conservative before he came to the speakership, but now he puts a tweet out the other day saying, oh, they whispered to him about 702, how important it is, and now he's completely changed and lost all his principles on the idea that you shouldn't spy on Americans without a warrant. On the spending issue, they say, oh, government will shut down. But if the Democrats want this level of spending, we want this level, a compromise would be splitting the difference. The Democrats got everything they want in the spending, and all the hawks got what they want, too. This is a problem. On the Republican side, we have people who want unlimited military spending, and then the Democrats want unlimited welfare spending, and they get both. But Johnson hasn't held his ground. He has power. He has a majority. Use the power of the purse, Speaker Johnson. Do something to make us think you are different than the Democrats. But so far, I don't see a lot of difference.
Wow. All of this while the border is yet to be secured.
Exactly. We shouldn't, you know, look, we have 41 Republicans in the Senate. So while I blame Speaker Johnson, I blame 41 senators in the Senate. We could stop the Senate and they could do nothing without us. If 41 of us say, no, we're not passing anything until the border is secured, guess what? Democrats will wake up and secure the border. But we don't use our power effectively. We abdicate. In the Senate, the same thing happens. 10 liberal, big government Republicans vote with the Democrats, and the Democrats get what they want. But now Mike Johnson's voting with a minority of his party. He's the leader of his party, and he's not voting with the majority of the Republicans were for a warrant requirement. The majority of the Republicans were not for having a deficit of $1.5 trillion, and yet he's siding with the Democrats. That's ineffective leadership. And if he wants to remain Speaker, frankly, he's going to do better because, you know, I wanted to give him a break, and I have for a couple months. This is the first time I've really spoken out. But somebody, I mean, the Speaker's got to be a Speaker. He's got to be a leader of his party, not a capitulator to the other party.
What about leadership in the Senate? Who would you like to see replace Mitch McConnell?
Anyone at this point would be better because he now has decided that Ukraine and sending our money to Ukraine that we have to borrow is more important than anything, including our border. The whole fiasco of getting that thing started with ineffective border control that we ended up rejecting in the end was all Senator McConnell's idea, and it was a disaster. It's led to Democrats now saying, oh, well, look, we offered you this great border bill, and you didn't take it. It was a crummy border bill. It was a crummy deal. We never should have done it.
Senator, real quick before you go, we've got to get into